With spring practice having just begun on Sunday, give me 3 offensive players that need to show the most improvement over the next 15 days of spring practice in order for the Trojans to be successful in 2023. Give me the names and give me your explanations. Start with Mark. Who's your 3?
So it's funny because I put this list together before Lincoln Riley spoke this morning, and then Lincoln Riley kind of pulled the rug out from under me a little bit when he mentioned Cortland Ford's name. He said he's had a great offseason. He's dropped some weight, he's looking great, and they expect a lot out of him. And I agree. Last year he started, I think Eric pointed this out in one of his articles, he started at left tackle, he finished the season at left tackle. But in between that time, he lost that starting job, whether it was due to injury, weight, whatever. There was something going on there. And Mason Murphy, who's one of my 3 guys, took over starting for him at left tackle. Well, Mason Murphy also started at right tackle, and then at the end of the year, he was backing up people. So these guys, I think, really need to solidify their roles, that they are going to be the starting tackles this year, because the writing was on the wall last year when you bring in a Bobby Haskins. They wrote it in big, bold letters this year with exclamation points when you bring in 3 guys. That's telling me that the staff doesn't have a lot of confidence in the younger guys who played last year and showed what they can do in game situations. So those 2 guys really need to step up and say, hey, you know what? These are our spots. We earned it last year. We're gonna earn it again this year. And then my 3rd guy on offense, and with Mason, he just needs to get more consistent. There's a reason they like him so much. I mean, he's got that size. But my 3rd guy, I think one of you mentioned it, is going to be Rayleigh Brown. And he's not going to be getting a lot of touches at running back, especially with Austin Jones coming back, and they brought in Marshawn Lloyd. So how's he going to do playing in that slot position? They want to get him the ball, in open space. How's he going to handle that move? And is he going to be able to deal with the competition with, a Zachariah Branch, a Mario Williams, a Taj Washington? Because now all of a sudden he's not the guy. So those are the 3 guys I chose on offense they're really going to have to step it up in these 15 practices during spring.
Who has to step it up, Chris Arledge?
No, on offense, nobody does. I mean, there's some guys. I'm going to talk about some guys that I hope will step it up. But if what you're saying is who needs to really step it up for the offense to be successful, I guess my question for you is: Caleb Williams still going to be there and healthy? Because if he is, with the talent he has around, unless you lose 5 offensive linemen to injury, or unless Caleb Williams gets lost and doesn't make it to the Coliseum, USC's offense is going to be lights out. It's going to be the best offense in the country. It just is. So nobody. But here are the guys I would like to see step up. I would like Brendan Rice to step up. We saw a fantastic Cotton Bowl from him. But for most of the year, people were wondering, why is he getting so much time? He was inconsistent with his hands. He was inconsistent with his play. USC could use a big physical guy. They have a bunch of small, fast guys. And Brendan Rice clearly has a talent to be that guy. He needs to be consistent. So I'd like him to step up. Rayleigh Brown is also on my list. I actually think Rayleigh can get quite a bit of time in the backfield if he can become consistent and reliable. He needs to be able to pass block. He needs to, when it's 3rd and 4 and he can get 4, he needs to get it instead of trying to get 30. There's some things he needs to do. But you're talking, if USC wants a game breaker in the backfield, it's going to be Rayleigh Brown, and I think Riley does. Somebody you can move around, motion out of the backfield, try to get a linebacker lined up on him in the slot. Once you do, I mean, there are things you can do with him, the way Norm Chow used to do with Reggie Bush a lot of times, if he can improve his consistency. My 3rd one is going to be an offensive lineman. Actually, Mason Murphy and Cortland Ford are both good ones. I'm going to go with Jonah Monheim. I think all 3 of those guys have shown they can play, and it's now time for one or more of them to actually take that next step and become a dominant football player. And I think they're all capable of it. but we haven't seen it from any of them yet. So I'm gonna go with Monheim, although Ford and Murphy both fit the bill. Those guys are now in a position where they can go from being a guy who plays a lot on a pretty good offensive line on a team that scores a lot of points to being a dominant guy who's now talked about as somebody who's going to be a first day draft choice. And the question is whether any of the three can make that step.
All right, Eric, who's your threesome?
Yeah, I'm going to go with 2 offensive linemen too. And I think the key on this and why is how important Caleb Williams is, right? Like he had to do a ton of scrambling and he took a bunch of hits. He's going to take hits as a runner because he's going to try to pick up extra yards. I think he's going to be better probably this year about getting down, getting out of bounds. And he did do that last year. But having a solid wall up there on that offensive line against defenses that you know are going to bring everything they can. Whatever that defensive coordinator knows is coming at Caleb Williams, you'd assume, this fall. So I'm going to say Justin Dedich in the middle, and that doesn't have a lot to do with he played poorly last year and needs to get a ton better, but it's going to be a position switch, and he's moving to center, and I know he's done it before. Having that kind of veteran guy in Brett Nealon where the calls were there and all of that, I think that gave Caleb Williams kind of that security blanket. Justin D, he just needs to show that he could do that. And I think he will. But again, it's a big spring when you have a new center. Again, when your quarterback is that important, just to figure out getting them on the same page, getting Justin Deitch to the point where he's reading defenses and lockstep with Josh Henson and Lincoln Riley and everything that goes into that. Again, the expectation for him, he'll get it and be great and it'll go. As good as he can possibly be, I think is pretty key to the USC offensive line. And then staying there, Michael Tarquin coming over from Florida. He posted pretty good grades, all of that kind of stuff from the people who do that. When he got hurt early on in the year, it was a real young guy, a freshman, that sort of announced his presence in that line. And then they kind of bounced back and forth the rest of the season. So it wasn't a full season for him. Again, a new offense coming over, new expectations, all of that kind of stuff. For him to be able to potentially step in at right tackle and completely lock that spot down. Again, Caleb Williams moves so much that left tackle, right tackle doesn't always seem like it holds true. He got as much pressure off the right side as from the left side last year, again, seemingly. But any offensive lineman who can raise their game to the point where they leave spring going, yeah, that's the guy, we're super comfortable with that guy there, that's going to be a huge benefit to the offense as a whole, to Caleb Williams, to Lincoln Riley, to all of that stuff. And then Brendan Rice was my other guy. There is such a difference for all offenses across the country. The difference between, yeah, we have a bunch of good wide receivers, or yeah, we have an elite top 15 NFL draft pick wide receiver. Brendan Rice showed flashes with that size, the speed, and the hands occasionally that he could be that guy. USC needs that guy. And you can throw Dorian Singer in there. It's a lot to ask that of Zachariah Branch, but I think he's a guy that potentially could give you that. But the size, I think, that Brendan Rice brings can tilt the field a little bit. And if he's that guy where Caleb can, yeah, I think he's down there somewhere, let's go give him a chance, and he can make those plays for you, it takes your offense to a different level. Again, Lincoln Riley could find 11 people on the way to the stadium and put together a pretty good offensive game plan, I think. But when you need it, and if you need to score 52 or 65 or 110 or whatever it is, having that absolute number one dominant wide receiver is big. And we've seen every spring, it feels like before we saw Michael Pittman have that breakout year and Amon-Ra and Drake London, just for 3 recent ones, you saw it in spring. You saw, okay, that's a different guy this year getting ready for the fall. And so I think that's why for me, it's with Rice, because he did show those flashes, but it wasn't as consistent as you'd want it from that number one guy.
Well, I think that all your answers are pretty much right on. You could pick any of them. My 3 is Cortland Ford. 1, because I think that he has the ability to start, but he has the ability to maybe play a guard position. and they need to make sure that they can rotate players. So he needs to make sure his consistency level. Brendan Rice, same thing. I don't know which Brendan Rice I'm going to see, the one that really made your eyes pop out of your head because he looked so good, or the one that drops passes and you go, how did he drop that one? So I think if he plays at an elite form and consistent, that's really going to help Caleb Williams, I can tell you that. And Justin Dedich, I thought also, even though he's going to start for all the reasons that Eric mentioned, the switching positions, leadership role, the whole thing, a lot's going to fall on his shoulders, calling out the line play. So it'll be interesting.